So, streaking grime. Is it as good as everyone makes out? Hi everyone, I would like to say a huge thank you at the beginning of this video for last week's video that I did on the Space Marine that I'm selling on eBay for the Ukraine crisis. The bid currently stands at £50, which is incredible. You're quite a generous bunch, I didn't expect it to get that high. So thank you for that. There's going to be a link in the description below if you want to get in a last minute bid. It ends on Saturday at some time. But for this video we're going to be looking at streaking grime. Now streaking grime is an enamel based wash which is used by a lot of painters and is hailed as being quite an impressive tool. I myself haven't actually used it, so I thought that I would take this opportunity to paint 4 different miniatures and then use the enamel wash on them and see how it affects each colour scheme. For this I've painted up 4 models to a tabletop standard. We have 1 Tyranid Termagant, 1 Necron Hexmark Destroyer, 1 Dark Angel's Aggressor, and 1 Knob on Warbike for my Orc army, and you may recognise the base because finally getting around to painting this miniature. That base was actually created during my All About That Base video, which I will put a card up here for. So when it actually comes to using streaking grime, there's an important thing that you should know. And that is that it's an enamel wash, which means you're going to need something like white spirits to use in place of water. Now that goes for diluting the wash, washing your brushes, and at the end when we want to remove some of it, we're going to be using that as well. So perhaps unsurprisingly, the first thing that we're going to do is just take some of the streaking grime and slop it all over the miniature. I myself am going to be pretty heavy-handed in the application. I don't think you have to go this hard, but I am creating quite a thick layer all over each miniature. You may notice that on the Orc I am not going to be touching any of the skin, and on the Dark Angel I haven't actually painted the face yet, and that is just because I don't want the skin to be washed out with this streaking grime. The reason for that is just that I want the suit and the bike to look like they're dirty, but the person on it is actually fresh on the battlefield. They just don't really look after their stuff that well, so they themselves are pretty clean. Once you have doused your miniature in streaking grime, I would advise leaving it for around 10 minutes to partially dry. If however you're doing it in an assembly line like I am, where I'm painting 4 miniatures, by the time I've got to the last one, the first one's probably dry enough to move on to the next stage. And that is to start removing the streaking grime from all of the raised areas, allowing it to sit in all the recesses. To do this we're going to use some of the white spirit and a cotton swab. What you want to do is take the cotton swab and dip it into the white spirit, and then we're going to run it over all of the raised areas. This will pick up some of the enamel wash from before, exposing the paint job underneath. Now if you'd like a more sustainable way of doing this, I would advise buying some makeup sponges. In particular the tiny ones that kind of look like a cotton swab but are sponges on each end. This can be reused, whereas these cotton swabs get easily damaged and aren't really reusable. Make sure you're trying to rinse your swab fairly often throughout this process, because otherwise you're going to be putting dirty white spirits onto the model and kind of just pushing about the wash instead of removing it. Something I'd like to advise is that you open a window during this process. The fumes from the white spirits can be pretty strong and you don't want to be affecting your brain in any weird ways. Once you've got it to a stage that you are quite comfortable with, it's time to put your miniatures aside to dry. Now this is another key difference between this enamel based wash and a typical acrylic wash. Acrylics dry relatively quickly, whereas this streaking grime is going to take a few hours to dry. So for me, I've got a rather warm place in the house, and that is my airing cupboard. I'm going to put them in there and leave them for around 3 hours, and then I will go back later to see how they're looking. So here we have our 4 miniatures. Just before I call them done, I'm going to go in and add some edge highlights here and there to make it look like some fresh paint has been revealed from a dink or a scratch, where some of the dirt has been thrown off. I'm not going to do too much, however, because I still want it to look nice and dirty. And with that, I'm going to say these miniatures are done. So, what do I think of Streaking Grime? I actually really enjoyed using this. It was nice for one to step out of my comfort zone and use a different type of painting medium. But I also just think that the effect actually looks really nice. It has a certain texture to it, almost like a dried dirt, and it's really useful for things like vehicles. One thing I will say is I'm probably never going to use this again on my Dark Angels. As you can see with these 4 miniatures, the ones that are lighter really benefit from this, whereas the darker green on the Dark Angel, it's just not as affected. And there we go. If any of you wish to use this Streaking Grime, want to give it a go, I'm going to leave a link in the description to Element Games, which is a company in the UK that is a games distributor. They have loads of these kind of products on there from different companies like Vallejo and Citadel and loads of different paintbrushes and stuff, but they also have cheaper Warhammer on there. They have up to 20% off some of the items. Thank you for watching this video, thank you for giving it a thumbs up. Leave any comments down below on anything you'd like to see in the future. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos, and until next time, I'll see you later.